Hello YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? Just on vacation with my family, away from my house. Be coming back home shortly. Anyway, just a quick video here for you guys. I'm trying to think about how to start this one off. It's a tough one. In a way, I just had a conversation with a family member that we'll just say relative, not blood related, but relative, in which I very quickly, felt on the defensive politically, and I'm going to let this person realize what was said and what wasn't so good about what was being said, and why I said what I said. But I'm going to mention, I know what I'm going to mention in this video, and that's, again, kind of where I stand politically, and touch on other points as well. This is a very confusing time that we're living in, and so confusing, in fact, that it seems like people that are otherwise respectable, good people are going ballistic, anger sometimes over the things that other good people say and believe. And there's so many different kinds of opinions on things. It's kind of a little bit hard to keep up with everything. And there's a lot of, it's not even always clear what is this, but there's a lot of fake news. And I mean, I kind of ran into a website called The Onion quite some time ago that kind of writes these stories as if they're real, but they're it's satire. But there, it's kind of there's this air spirit about let's say culture, whatever feeling that is in modern times, that where you feel as though whatever beliefs you have, whatever perspective you have, regardless of how true it is, people are going to make fun of you because they think that they know more, or they think that you're dumb for believing something that might seem harder to believe. It's a very sarcastic world. It's a very cynical world. Very much so. And this last conversation proved just how confused everyone can be, and that sort of thing, or how not clear things are. So I'm going to take a step back in this, talking about this, and talk about for a second where I'm coming in to just understanding everything politically. But I read a whole lot when I was younger. I mean, a lot. I was reading all the time. And a lot of what I read was things about the world and nations and things. But I remember Ronald Reagan very, very well. And then the presidents after him. And every single president after Reagan was not as good, weaker. Say what you want to about, I don't know, a few others that are more recent. But none of them were as good as Reagan. But even Reagan wasn't quite one of the very best, maybe. I think that might be something that would come from a political professor rather than my own feelings, because I very much do like Ronald Reagan his character, what kind of person he was, as well as Carter, actually. So, first off, what is it that, first, why do we have so much confusion in this arena? And why do emotions run so high? And why is there so much misunderstanding? I'll try to get to all this stuff bit by bit. It's just not easy to sum up. And I said I'd try to start out when I was younger and going older. Well, because I was very confused by politics, I always thought that, we should have a situation where anybody that's elected is elected by people that are very aware of not only everything, have enough knowledge of what's going on, which I admittedly admit we don't. We don't really know what's really going on. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle as to why we're all confused. We do, but we don't. So, and that's not just because we're dumb. It's because there actually is information that we need to know about that actually is being withheld from us on purpose. But, so it's just that, I never really personally experienced any differences between any president. I just remember how I felt great about Reagan, and I always felt good whenever he spoke. And other guys, not so much. And they all seemed kind of the same to me. And I've heard from other people, as younger, working in different jobs, that the only difference was something having to do with taxes. And it was kind of, inconsequential, more or less. And then there are comedians like George Carlin, regardless of how crude he is, are very, very intelligent and entertaining, who said basically, this country's been bought and paid for a long time ago. And the stuff that they shovel around every 4 years, it's meaningless, right? And I agree with that. It's meaningless. He doesn't vote. I hope somehow that whoever I vote for, it will matter. So I vote, not necessarily all the time, but from my personal experience, through my entire life, I honestly haven't seen any major differences between any of the presidents after Reagan, really. I hope that Trump is doing good things. One always is confused as to what actually is going on, because we have representatives that supposedly represent us, but do they? You can't, writing letters to your representatives, and do they ever really respond? It's a joke. It's not democracy. Whoever said this country is a democracy might be seen as a republic by some. Anyway, that's a different subject. So basically, so why are we confused? It should be very clear, right? It should be very clear what's going on, right? Economics is sometimes complex enough, but we know that if you have a hardworking nation and you have a lot of ways to sell your stuff, right? Make a profit to other companies. If you're productive and you're generating income, more wealth for people, that's going to help the economy. And we know that not having too high of a tax can help people have more savings and be able to spend money the way they want to. So it strengthens the economy rather than all the money being channeled through government and government being extremely wasteful with that money because, you know. So economics even is easier to understand than politics because we're taught these things when we're younger about politics that we just don't really see in real life. I don't need to explain to you guys what I don't fully understand it all myself. Something, you know, for instance, more recently, things having to do with Trump, you know, and getting someone on the Supreme Court. I keep hearing stuff, one thing after another, that just, it's not just Trump, it's everybody. It's everybody can, you know, it's just Patriot Act and this and that. A lot of things that go against the Constitution. Oh, the Patriot Act is you know, for instance, was, you know, set in place so we wouldn't have bombers and stuff. You know why? This is, you know, one thing leads to another, right, folks? In politics, what we have are rumors, and we have nothing else to go off of sometimes other than rumors, and, you know, reasoning, until we have more concrete stuff. Or sometimes some things seem concrete to some, but not to others. As long as that's the case, it's going to be confusing. So it's confusing because we don't know, first off, we don't know what it is that is real in politics. Because apparently the news groups that cover everything don't cover everything. They don't give us enough information to really let us know what's really going on. Or they kind of just cherry pick, you know, things that, you know, they want us to see. It's a facade. It's like everybody's being duped. And only those of us that, you know, suspect other things that are going on, we suspect, you know, we don't have a lot of concrete evidence yet. There are some things that are more concrete that, you know, about Illuminati and stuff, but it's not being taught in schools, you know. But yeah, I mean, like, there's enough of a there's enough out there now, and there has been for a little while, that if you have been, you know, studying things the way things are, you'll see that things are not as they appear to be. And it's astonishing how many people think they know what's really going on that don't. And it's trying to help these people say, oh, you know, gosh, it would be so, you know, it would be great. It would be great to have just a two-party system where, you know, each party is who they say they are, and what they stand for is truly what they stand for, and those good things they stand for, they'll do when someone's in office. And, you know, hey, gosh, that sounds great. And they want to, you know, in real life, that's what they say, but what actually happens is not at all what we want to have happen. The only thing that ever happens that's, you know, it's a constant. We keep getting involved in stupid wars. We keep paying for those wars and things. It's not of our choice, but if we don't, we go to jail. In terms of our health care, it's not run well by government. It never has been run well by government. You name it. I mean, like, government doesn't do anything well. Nothing well. You know, unless you're talking about general. I mean, look at the generals and the soldiers that win wars, not the president. What does government do well? I mean, the post. You know, most things are run by state and local governments, and they run on a shoestring budget compared to the national government. The national government, I don't know where all this money's going, half time, and it's so much of everybody's paychecks. And someone thinks they know what's really going on in government. or someone can suppose that they have an inkling of idea what's really going on in government. Any one of us. When, we're all powerless, against the powers that be. I mean, when did any of us vote for, oh gosh, you can name it. When the Vietnam War happened, did anybody vote for the Vietnam War to happen? I mean, were we like, hey, did any of us know what was happening? Were just like, man, we gotta get soldiers over there ASAP. We gotta get over there. All right? No. It was Nixon. Apparently, no, it wasn't really Nixon, but it was Nixon came on TV, or I don't know. It was something that was foisted upon us, right? And this is before I was born. Same thing with, Gulf War and Gulf War II, whatever. Same thing with everything in Afghanistan. All these things happened outside of my approval. I didn't approve any of this stuff. There's nothing that happens in the legislative, executive, or judicial, whatever, that I have anything to do with whatsoever. I just pay for this nonsense. Same thing with you. All you guys are watching this. We're all powerless. We can elect people. They come from us. No. No. If Carlin got something wrong, it was that our politicians are the same people as everyone else, and that's, I don't know if he really meant that. He said one thing and then he kind of meant another thing. So I know what he's saying, but what I'm saying is that no, they're a completely different. They're a completely different group. They're not accountable to us. And we are at least in a physical sense, or in the sense that someone can throw someone in jail, that sort of thing, political or legal or whatever, they have power over us. That's the way things are. And what that means is, no matter what someone thinks I believe, whether it sounds conservative or even liberal, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I have beliefs, but it really doesn't matter in a way, because you're just going to have the powers that be. They're going to keep confusing us. They're going to keep getting us to fight each other. They're going to keep making some people look odd. And yeah, you're not going to, you can't even, I had a history teacher in high school ask me what the difference between a Democrat and Republican was. He knew the answer, but not really, because it changes over time. It's very subjective. It's just everything about government can change over time. Government isn't math, right? The law isn't math. Laws change over time. But law is easier to understand than government. Or it's easier to figure out why things happen. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty evident when somebody is accused of a crime and you have a corrupt jury. Maybe it's something racial or something, or some other reason, right? Like the mafia or something, like in the Untouchables, right? When you have a jury that's been bribed. These things are really, really easy to understand compared to goings on of national government. So when someone asks me, what do you think of Trump? And so many conservatives that I feel very, close to, and politically, but some people love Trump because he's white, because he says things that are appealing to them. And he's, as far as I know, right? Trump's done well for the country economically, as far as I know, right? what do I know? What do any of us know? Really. So who is Trump? Just I think is who is Obama? Who is George W. Bush? Who's H.W. Bush? Who's Bill Clinton? Who are any of these guys? Even Reagan had to make he was forced to make compromises that he normally wouldn't have done. Same thing with Carter. Same thing with Nixon and Ford and these guys. So many folks. Kennedy. Every president since Eisenhower has had to make compromises with this group that we know, which I mentioned before, Illuminati. And people can make fun all they want to of this, but it doesn't change the fact that it's real. Why else would the entire world hate the United States government? At least the government, or maybe sometimes hate us. Why? What did I ever do? What did I ever do? Seriously, what did I ever do to anybody throughout the world? Nothing. It's what's happening with the government. And so, by token, a lot of people hate Americans. Why? I had nothing to do with this. It's ridiculous. And it's ridiculous to think that so many people aren't aware of this hatred that people have to Americans. You know why? It's because you have this organization that's using the United States and the resources and people and the money and everything for their own evil purposes, which is to kill everybody else and to kill ourselves. It's just depopulation, right? It is satanic government. That's what they're all about. We know about this. We know about this. And so it's ridiculous for someone to think that like you say, you have the best person that's elected. I voted for Evan McMullin in the last election. Gosh, it would have been amazing if he won, but no, I know he wasn't going to win. I know. But I had some part of my mind that wanted him to win. But, no, I mean, it's the only presidents that when you think of a president that's a halfway decent person in real life, it's only somebody on TV. It's like the president on 24. And someone wanted, the first black president, supposedly Obama. We want that first president to be a memorable, good person. A lot of people still believe that Obama was a good person. But honestly, the president on 24 was, if he was a real president, it would have been absolutely amazing. As good as Washington even. But as real life, what happens? Do people that do we feel like we have somebody who's truly a godly person in office? Is Trump a godly man? No. Was Obama? No. Neither of them were. Was George H.W. Bush a good man, godly man? Or George W. Bush? Or Bill Clinton? No. None of them. I have faith that Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter were good men. But again, we don't know what compromises they had to make with. So look, if I talk about politics with anyone from now on, I'm increasingly not wanting to. Unless they realize it's more of a facade than just politics as usual. Because it is. It's a facade. And what we care about so deeply, we invest in these people that say that they're for us, but they're not. And so they always let us down. They're letting us down all the time. And we're confused. And we say, why? So a lot of people wanted Hillary Clinton to win because she was a woman and she was liberal. Hillary Clinton is nothing like the sort of president that any of you guys that are feminists would want anyway. Look, you're better off with Julia Roberts. I'm saying that, I shouldn't even say it that way. I should say Julia Roberts would be an amazing president. An absolutely amazing president. Any Hollywood actor would be better than Hillary Clinton. But Hillary Clinton, even, I don't know, there's some worse than Hillary, but it's not, we just need to ignore race, we need to ignore sex, we need to ignore, the news for the most part, because they can't be trusted. We need to go off our gut feelings, even if we don't know everything. And, just turn off the news. Turn off the news. I get news on my Yahoo thing. And most of it is not really worth reading. There was a wildfire in California that was worth reading because it was real. It was a real event. It was nothing confusing about it. There's nothing confusing about a wildfire. There's nothing subjective about it. There's no interpretations to be had. People lost their houses. People lost their lives. That's real. That's real, folks. All this stuff that you see about making deals, right? Well, what deals are being made? We don't know. We don't know what's really going on between Russia and the United States. We have no clue. We have no clue whatsoever. We want to sound confident that we know what we're talking about. We don't. Trump and Putin. We say Putin is a real president because he's not part of the Illuminati. Well, what if he's just trying to work with George Soros and the Illuminati to help Russia become more affluent, which they have become. So everyone thinks Putin's a strong president, and I'd like to believe that, but we don't know. Vladimir Putin knows this, and so he's hoping that because more people are seeing presidents outside the United States as being better presidents and more effective and maybe even better men than some of the presidents we have. So he's hoping more people come over to the Russian side, or I don't know. So we're still a little still like unsure about Russia and Putin, but yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't personally know why everybody is our enemy. That makes no sense to me at all. I mean, in regard to the way Americans are, at least the Americans that I prefer to know, right? The hatred boggles my mind. When I keep hearing this hatred for America online, I keep doubting the people that I know in real life that I'm here in the United States talking to. I keep doubting the things that they say about the United States. You have to believe one or the other, It isn't a question of conservatives versus liberals. It's a question of the Arabs versus the Jews or the Christians. And who's telling the truth? And what I think is happening is that we're all being fed misinformation, but especially Americans. Other countries, like say in China, might censor the media. They censor stuff. They leave stuff out, but they don't really add in. They have propaganda. It's a little different than fake news. But we're all kind of being we're all being misled. We're all being intentionally confused. But in the United States, we're maybe at a comfortable advantage regarding maybe our own feeling of safety because we're the most powerful nation in the world. We keep hearing things though about the not good things that we're doing to other countries, and so then our military is being disrespected because of these things. And everyone should know that it isn't the military should be disrespected. It's the government, for crying out. It's the government. Obviously, like it's just no. Anyway, so yeah, just to kind of sum this all up, I just don't want to talk about politics with people in general, unless it's maybe my dad, my mom. It's unless if you get a bone to pick with conservatives. And it's actually almost refreshing, in a way, to have that kind of conversation compared to someone who will try to make me out to be someone I'm not, or try to paint me as someone who believes in crazy things, and I don't. I take a lot of things into account. And make no mistake, I don't believe any president, especially since Reagan, has been even remotely respectable. So I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not an Obama supporter. I'm none of those guys. I'm not Bush, not Clinton, none of them. I'm very independent, and I'm conservative. but not extremely so. But I'm on my own side here. I'm not with any of these guys. I think we need to leave people alone. I think we need to let people, other countries, work out their own things. Get our military back over here. There's so many stupid wars that I have no idea why they're being fought. Africa has enough problems left over by the colonial era. You still have tribes that are fighting each other for religious reasons or other reasons. There's so many problems in the world that to think that there's some other organization that's causing all these things to be far worse than they really are. It's like, oh my gosh, I just want second coming to happen. Jesus to come down again and just be done with all this nonsense. That's where I stand. So if you guys have a problem with an independent conservative who doesn't ally themselves with anybody since Reagan, if you have a problem with that kind of person, you can talk to me about that, because that's who I am. But if you have a problem with a Trump supporter or someone else, go somewhere else with that nonsense. I'm not saying it's nonsense. I'm just saying I have nothing to do with that crud whatsoever. All right, I'll catch you guys later.